This video is going to show you solo Grandmaster Nightfall getting platinum rank with the double primary Anarchy loadout. For those that just want to see this and skip the timestamp so you have available to you, other than that I can show you my weapons, my armor, my mods and all that stuff. So this run is out of curiosity to see how well double primary Anarchy, the loadout itself, performs in a solo GM environment. That is it. Also, not to use any fusion rifles because particle deconstruction is going away, so I want to stop sort of using that mod because it's going away. It's been super popular and we've had a long season and people are still messing around with the particle deconstruction. Just goes to show how popular it's been. But as I said, so there's two reasons really: to not use fusions and to use something else, and to see how well Anarchy performs as well. So the GM this week is Devil's Lair. Now I generally, at the start of every video, this is my format, I tell you the mods, but I'm going to stop doing that because Grandmaster mods have no rotation in it. They are fixed mods. Right, now there's no point me at the start of every video saying, right, this is the mod for this is mod for that, because it's the same as what it was when it launched months and months and months ago. Right, it's the same every time. So if you don't know the mods, you check the description. So I'm not going to go over the mods, and if the loadout itself doesn't make sense to you, then it's something to do with the mods. In D1 these mods would rotate, so you'd load up the Nightfall, you got Specialist, Arc Burn, I don't know, small arms 1 week, whatever it might be, but there's no point. It's fixed. We know what it is. So I'm just letting you know I'm going to stop covering the mods of the Nightfall. Unless it's a new Nightfall, then I'll do it. So this is a Warlock Voidwalker, top 3 Attunement of Chaos, Vortex Grenade, pairing that with the Exotic Gauntlets, Contraverse holds, so it's a grenade build. Weapon-wise, we're using a Auto Rifle Scathelocke with Osmosis in it. A arc bow with explosive head, major spec on both weapons for the champions, and then obviously Anarchy, the exotic grenade launcher. In terms of our armor mods, we're using a high energy fire build, so we've got high energy fire on the chest plate. Ways of getting charge of light, there's two ways. So we've got shield break charge, so when we break a matching shield, we get charge of light. We also can get charge of light via the champion mod, Fire and Ice. So when you kill a champion, you get an elemental well. If you put on elemental charge, you get charge of light when you pick up that elemental well, even if it's not matching well, right? You then get another way of getting charge of light. And then on top of that, we've got charge harvester, which gives us a small chance of getting charge of light anyways for each kill that we get. So it's a high energy fire build. Other mods to know about it is I had GL ammo finder on, anti-bio auto overload bow of course, double arc damage resistance because it's Devil's Lair, GL scavenger on the boots, and then bomber and distribution on the class piece, which you need solo for that, which works out really well on the Voidwalker with the grenades. So that was the setup. So as soon as you start, you want to immediately spawn your Sparrow. The quicker you do this, the better it will be making the journey through the entrance, as none of these ads you need to kill, including the champion. You do not need to kill the Overlord champion to get platinum rank. I'll repeat that again. You do not need to kill the first Overlord champion to get platinum rank. So many people get confused about that. You don't have to. For whatever reason, you don't. But you do need to kill the rest of the champions, every champion that you see, to obviously get the platinum. So as soon as we start, we're going to charge our grenade to try and get the free acolytes. Now I'm looking at my screen for points. Why? Because that tells me how many acolytes I've killed. So say if it only pops twice, then I know there's one acolyte left alive. That's common sense, but while you're doing the battle, during combat, you might miss it. And it's just helpful to know that, because then you can use a different angle. But obviously, I need to know all the acolytes are killed before I do what I've just done, so that I can get a better angle on the first champion. Okay, so the reason why these champions are so difficult, the hive ones specifically, like if you notice the fallen ones are really easy, the barriers is what I'm talking about. The reason why the hive ones aren't is because you are unable to critical hit their shield with auto rifles or whatever it might be. So they're bugged is what I'm telling you. With Arbalist it doesn't matter, it'll one-shot that shield anyways, right? But with any normal like barrier weapon, like next season if it was a scout, it'd be the same deal. So it takes longer because you're just doing body shot damage. So as you saw there, by using the other angle I could easily get my Anarchy shots on the champ. I also was jumping while I broke his shield, so I was shooting and jumping at the same time. Why was I doing that? It looks odd. Well, the reason why I was doing that is so that the knight doesn't kill me, because here's the thing, you sort of confuse the knight. The knight has a chance of missing you, whereas if you just stand on the ground, splash damage will kill you, and it's arc. So it's like 2-3 shots, even with double arc resist, with a decent resilience stat, you still get destroyed by the knight. So that's why I done that little bit of just jumping up and down while shooting. It means you can survive, even in a Healing Rift, right? Even in a Healing Rift, you can get wrecked if you don't do the jump. You know, do the jump. Now we'll deal with this Overlord. What you noticed as well, the Overlord was already fighting the Wizard because we'd spawned in this Overlord by coming down the stairs beforehand, before we killed the high barrier. It's a little detail, but it helps out. It means they're prepping the solar wizard for me, right? Because it's a solar match game shield. If you notice in my loadout, I only have arc and void. I have no solar. So this is what's sort of what you can do about that. If you are going to do a solar on it, and it's a pain that you don't want to use solar, because there's literally only 5 solar match game shields. There's 5 wizards in total, so it's kind of a pain, because it is a long GM. Even though it's an easy one, it's a quite longish one, right? So it's a pain to have like a solar weapon when you get to the boss, because it's no help to you. You really do want the arc, and you really do want the void. So what you want to do is leave adds alive to kill the wizards for you, or to take their shields down. I used a super there just because I'm going to get another cooldown. As intellect's being reworked on a massive level, which I probably should have made a video about, but I can do some little explanations trickled throughout the run about intellect a little bit. So you can see the solar captains and the overlord, they do solar, right? So they are melting down the match game shield. It's kind of interesting how the enemies interact with each other though, because when you obviously partially take down a match game shield, say on a wizard or whatever it might be, there's like a 4 or 5 second time before that starts to regen. They seem to regen faster if a enemy takes down a match game shield for you. The shield regenerates quicker, or say it's half taken off, it'll regenerate a little quicker. I don't know why that is. It's kind of weird. I guess it's not intent for enemies to sort of kill other enemies for you. It's not an intended thing, but they do obviously fight each other. So that's how we can get around the solar wizards, is what I'm saying. Obviously I could super the wizards and things like that and use my nade, and it's not much of a problem on Voidwalker because you've got all the sort of total damage in the world with this build, with the Vortex Grenade and the Contraverse. But still, leaving the solar captains up when I want them up is ideal. Also, we fight the barrier up on this ledge and have all the enemies do additional damage to the champ for us, because the enemies can't see us. The fallen can't, the high barrier could, but the enemies are just going to focus the champion, so you can get assistive damage there. This is true for a lot of GMs, like Warden and Nothing's a key one, where a lot of the Colossuses can kill overloads for you. Literally, they can melt overloads, which is a really good mechanic. I do like that. So, in other words, you keep adds up when you want them, and then when you don't need them, you can obviously kill them. So we're on the final overload here. I'm just waiting for him to teleport in a good place, because sometimes this particular overload, I know he likes to hide behind the tree, and what it is, why that's a bad thing for us is on console there's aim assist, of course, which is a benefit overall, but it can get in the way. If I try and crit this overload and he's behind a tree and I can see half of his face and the other half I can't, the bow shot will just keep hitting the tree. The bow shot itself will curve to the head, and the head might be directly behind that tree, but I'm not hitting the champ, I'm hitting the tree, therefore I'm missing overload shots. You know? Or obviously I could overload him by hitting his foot or something, but rather than do all that, I just position the overload when he's away from that tree, because it is annoying. So what I'm doing here is setting up Anarchy traps. 2 for each spawn point, because there's 3 doors. All the fallen on round 1, because obviously 3 waves. On round 1, all the fallen come from those doors, so you can kill a lot of them on this setup. So this is just me showcasing another sort of cool thing you can do with Anarchy. It's got a lot of benefits still to it. It's still got all the stuff that it used to do, right? It's just as good that way for ad clear. So now we'll stun the Overload. We'll get a Nova Bomb because we keep getting a lot of supers. Now why is that? Well, because they've changed intellect so that it's not just based on time. It used to be based on a timer, and you would get a little bit of super regen off killing a champ, you know, depending on what rank and file of the ad it was. Now if you literally just do damage to a champ or a boss or anything, your super bar goes up quickly. It's based on damage you take and damage you deal. That's a huge thing. So think of it like this. The old subclass, practice makes perfect, hunter, bottom tree, gunslinger. If you don't know what that does, you should do. It basically gives you super regeneration for free when you hit enemies. It has to be critical hits, but that's what happens. Basically all subclass, every subclass that you have does that now to a certain degree. It's very similar to that perk. It's not exactly the same, but it's obviously intrinsic. So in other words, what I'm trying to say is for solo play now you get far more supers than you ever used to. In other words as well, you don't need to be running maximum intellect. Intellect now at this point, it's not needed in terms of stats. So like when you see these people running high recovery, high intellect, it's like, oh, this is a god roll piece. Well, no, it's not, because you don't need intellect. Intellect is in the game for you. You just need to deal damage to enemies. Anyone can do that. So in other words, don't spec for intellect in PvE. In PvE, spec for your recovery, your discipline, or even recovery strength, because strengths now become actually quite good. Like, let's take for example Graviton Forfeit. If you rock high strength, it's infinite invisibility. Like, that's actually true. It's actually, Night Stalker's actually stronger now than it ever has been, and that surprised me after, you know, what happened to it and things. Just because of that one fact. That's one, you know, idea. That's one example. So now we come back to this location. The solar wizards are obviously going to be the pain, because I haven't got the solar weapon to take the shields, but we can sort of, as I say, let the solar captains and the overlords take the solar wizards. The problem with this, doing it like this, is it's going to cost us time. It'll cost us a bit of time, because generally I would just like to melt the wizards and then move on to the barrier and stuff like that. We can't, because when that barrier spawns in as well, we let the barrier retreat. We'll take the anti-barrier champion at the end. Now we'll just deal with the rest of the spawns, which were on phase 1 of 3. So now it's just dealing with the fallen. We can't get the wizards, and the solar captains haven't spawned in. When I say the solar captains, the captains that do solar damage. They're not solar shielded, they're arc shielded, but you want to try and keep a lot of those alive to help you, assist you. And if they don't do the job, you've got to get to the next phase for the overlords, because the overlord captains in this particular room, they deal arc, they do solar, sorry. So they're your next chance at killing the wizards. And what you need to sort of master is aggroing and de-aggroing ads. What does that mean, and how do you do it? Well, it'd be simple to most players, you know, understand it. But if you don't, then obviously you've got to learn it. In other senses, if you know you do a super, you make a lot of hassle with your weapons on the enemies. They'll be super aggroed on you, and they can be more aggroed on you depending on how much threat you are to them. It's a secret sort of thing that's in the game. But if you back off for so long, they will eventually get tired and fight each other, the enemies. If it's only one enemy faction, that's sort of different. They have nothing to do. Then if it's one enemy faction, they literally just sit down. Some of the fallen just sit down and scour the area and just walk about. But if it's two enemy factions like this, then obviously they're aggroed on each other. Knowing how to do that is key for when you haven't got a matching shield, or you need something taken down that you can't because you load out and you're restricted because you're solo. So just knowing little things like that will benefit you, and it might benefit you for all sorts of things in the future. Knowing everything you can about this game does help out. About AI especially, knowing that is key to the solo. It's not, I'm sure we know, like the GMs, they're not like catered to certain skilled players. They're catered to those players who are willing to do anything to get it done, but they're not catering to the people who like fast play in the game. You can play fast in these GMs, and I have seen people do insane times. I'm not saying that, but that's more so with their loadout. That's more of them picking the loadout rather than, you know, shotgun and two for all and then killing a champion like close quarters and doing this and doing that. In GMs, you're just standing at a location, dealing damage safely so that you don't die, because everything hits too hard. And this is the problem with GMs, but we're still going to have this problem because they haven't announced any changes. So GMs are still going to be this format. And I've kept going on and on about people, trying to tell people this isn't quite right. We need to sort of like look at what Nightfalls are again, but they're not, because of the label GM, solo GM, right? Oh, it sounds so good, but it's just a name tag, right? It's still just the Nightfall. It's just a souped up strike, right? Let's get them changed. Let's have a look at, you know, changing the way GMs work a little bit, because sidearms, SMGs, things like that are worthless in this activity. The shotguns are kind of worthless because you're punished for using a weapon type in the game. You shouldn't be. You shouldn't be punished for using a certain weapon type, you know, and then you're rewarded for using scouts and bows. Even said that I do love scouts and bows, but I'm just saying it ends up doing away with certain weapon types and even certain subclasses. So they need to look at changing it, but we'll continue with it because it is PvE and it's PvE what I do. So I'm not going to stop doing GMs because I've got a lot of support from doing them. So I'm thankful for that. I'm not saying I'm not, but I'm just saying, like, this iteration of Nightfalls might not be as good as what you think it is, but that's just what I'm saying about it. So the overloads have spawned in, which means that we're going to get a better opportunity of taking these wizards, which we can check in a minute to see if they're down. I think they are now, actually, as there's no arc spray. So all the wizards are taken out. I know that the snipers to my left. I was trying to get them with Anarchy, which I missed. It's fine. There's a sniper alive, which they are dangerous. Even with double arc resist and things, because it's GM difficulty, like 2 or 3 snipes can just about kill you. So it's very important that you prioritize snipers and don't fight, you know, close to enemies when the sniper's up, especially if there's multiple snipers up. Those are all the enemies killed. We've got charge of light. I end up using my super anyways though, so it didn't matter so much. The only reason why I'm using it because I'm going to get it back, so I may as well do it. So any sort of build that you can think of that's good with supers like Chaos Ridge, that's going to be actually better than what it was, just because of this intellect change of when you deal damage to tanky targets, you get increased super. So just think how good Chaos Ridge would actually be in this. Or Dawnblade, or whatever you might think. We'll take out the champion. You can see how much heavy I'm getting as well. So that's one thing I can tell you that is the same. So when you run double primary Anarchy, you're still getting that increased charge of heavy. Whereas if I was using a special weapon, say I was using a fusion in this loadout or something, I'll get far less ammo for Anarchy than what I do with just double primary, because there's only one brick that can drop, which is heavy, so you're just going to get an increased chance on that. The goal in this room, obviously, this is just there's nothing much to this room, just a couple of ads, but you do want to take out all the dregs first before you do anything, because the dregs, what they will do is when they hide, they'll just keep nading you. One nade can get you pretty weak. if you're already weak and you get naded, you will die to it because of the incoming arc. So it's just one of those things where keep an eye on nades, keep an eye on any dregs that are in the room, because obviously Chaff's on, there's no radar, so you don't know what's alive and what's not. But if you know the head count of each room, it doesn't matter to you, which that's why I always say to people, learn the spawns of literally everything, and that way you can't go wrong. We used Anarchy there, just one at a time, just to see what it's like. That's how I used to use it. I used to just use it one shot at a time, especially on overloads. Maybe not so much on barriers, but overloads I used to just maybe spray it once. Sometimes champions would sort of freak out when you used Anarchy on them, because they're tagged to it and things, and if you didn't get your overload, whatever overload weapon it was that season perfect, they would sort of freak out, teleport, and then regen. And it's also, your ammo will go further. I mean, it got nerfed, Anarchy, for ammo reserves. It was 26, now it's 16. So actually using it where you just do one shot per champ, it makes your ammo go a little bit further. So doing things like that. I mean, like, I've tagged this champ right here once. That's got him to a 30 HP. Now I'm just trying to take out any ads surrounding the champ, because this champ's annoying in terms of he tethers the dregs nade you while you try to do a shield break. So we'll do an over here. We just got our Nova bomb. I was intending to do that, I just didn't quite have it as I got here, but we got it in time, because a Nova bomb will only do around about just over half HP to a champ anyway. So that's a good Nova bomb used. All the ads are taken out. Just be careful of right in front of you, 12 o'clock, because there's 3 or 4 snipers and they can sort of see you, but you can't see them so well. The visibility is bad. So just be careful, because you could get a 3-shot there easily. There's a sniper to our left, which we're going to take. I used a nade to take out most of the ads while the ads are grouped up. It's important on this playstyle that you play quick with the nades. Like, as soon as you approach ads, before they scatter, like, we know that that's a thing with Fallen, they sort of scatter as soon as you see them and split up. If you can get a nade on them just as you go around that corner, then it means your nade's going to deal with the majority of the ads. So now we'll deal with the bundles. So as I said, there's 3 or 4 snipers on that building in front. You want to take those first, or the majority of them. Once there's only 1 or 2 snipers left on that particular part, sniper will hide and not snipe you. But they will snipe you when they're in packs, or they're more likely to. Because once we've done that, we're going to step up onto this pipe here, and this is just a good location to take out the first overload. See, this tank area can be as either hard or as easy as you want it. How do you want to make it? And in my books, if you do it the way I'm going to show you, it's probably going to be the easiest way. It might not be the fastest, but I'm not here for the fastest. I'm here for what's the most consistent. What's the easiest for somebody who's not as good as maybe me or someone else, but could still do the same thing as me. That's the real goal. How can somebody not as good as me do the same thing as me? And if they can do it as good as me or better, then that's something they've gained from the video, and that's the whole idea of it. Rather than, right, this is as fast as possible, and then if somebody just says it, they're going to say, well, I can't do that, I'm not watching it. See, people will only watch something that they're going to get some benefit out of, and if it's something that's out of their reach, they're less likely to watch it. Which is a reason why I stopped doing like the speedruns and stuff like that, because it's out of reach of most folks. And what reward do you get for getting a record in this game? There's no leaderboards in the game. Forget about speedrun.com. That's not even Destiny based. That's just a website. That's a third party website, nothing to do with Destiny. It's got speedrun.com and they've got their own rules. That's nothing to do with the game. Like, we haven't got in-game leaderboards, so why are people so fixated on, well, I done this GM in this time, or I done this dungeon in this time? Well, what are you getting for that? Think about it. Ask yourself, what are you getting for that? You're getting nothing. You're just getting maybe more. You'll get more loot than the average person because you'll run it quicker than the average person. But at that point, you're probably hardcore and you have everything anyways. So then what are you getting from it then? At that point, you're just doing it for doing its sake. And that's my whole problem with the ethos with the speedrunning thing is you put in so much work and not get anything out of it. That's what I found from it when I was doing it and stuff. Team speedruns is a completely different thing. I'm talking like solo speedrun. Team speedrun, that's a lot different because you're gelling with a team and you're learning to play with somebody. If you speedrun a raid or a dungeon, best tier or even GMs, that's different category entirely. So I'm not saying I think bad of that, and I don't think bad of anything regarding speedrun. I'm just saying I haven't found that I get a lot out of it. Once you've learned it though, it does help you out in general day-to-day play, because if you do need to step up your speed a little bit for something or for some team, then you can do that on time-based missions. But we don't have any time-based missions. The only one we have right now is Prestige, and it's going away. Right? So it's one of those things. We need more time-based stuff. I know there's a lot of people who don't like the time-based stuff, but I quite do. Just see what comes in which queen. We're just getting the snipers at this point. The reason why we're not pushing up any further than what we are is because if you push up before the hill, you get the Briggs and the tank. I'm sure you'll know that. But you'll also still have the snipers up while you're dealing with the Briggs. So that's a problem. Because a Brig can almost kill you, pretty much kill you anyways. Very easily. And if a sniper catches you while you're trying to avoid the Brig, you're dead. That's a circumstance of how you would die. So to stop that from happening, you take out what snipers you can before you spawn in the Briggs. Therefore, it's a little easier. Then you'll get some ads pushing. Now, I go left side. There's right side, left side. Don't fight from the right side if you are fighting the tank. You've got to really know what you're doing in this environment in terms of if I stand such and such, what happens with the ads. You really need to know. Like, on this left-hand side, I like to take out the Brig on the left. Because if you do fight the Brig on the right, the Brig on the left can ambush you and both of the Brigs can hit you. That will be a death, guaranteed. And if you've got no cover, that's a death. So you don't want that happening either. So it's a case of isolation. You need to learn how to isolate ads. That's one of the biggest things with GMs. Because obviously, you can't take out all the ads at the same time. Their combined fire would just kill anybody. It doesn't matter what resilience build you're using. You would just die. You know, you can't withstand so much damage in GMs. So we're charged with light here, so we're doing damage to the Brig while we've got charge of light. That come in handy, charge harvester. So there's no shield break here, right? There was a champion, but we couldn't pick up the elemental well. So charge harvester kicked in when I wanted it, which is ideal, which means I could melt the Brig down. Now you saw what Anarchy done to the Brig. Brigs are classed as vehicles, tanks are classed as vehicles. So I think Anarchy's the same as what it was for vehicles. But for bosses, I think it's specifically for bosses that it got nerfed. Now I don't know what that means for Sepix Prime. Does Sepix Prime do you do the same damage to Sepix Prime as what you did before? Because he's a boss. He's a vehicle, but I don't know what damage. I think it's the same damage. Someone knows, let me know, but I think it's the same damage towards vehicles but nerfed to bosses. And Sepix Prime isn't a boss, he's a vehicle. So technically this should actually be the same as what it was before they nerfed it. The difference being is you've got less ammo. But the GL scavenger will help towards that, because as I said, even though you've only got 16 bullets, doesn't mean you haven't got 3 bricks on the floor, which equates to another 10 or 15 ammo. So you've still got more than 16. You can control what ammo you've got on the floor, which you'll see I do that a lot. For the most part, my playstyle leans towards using less heavy, always using less heavy, especially in GMs. Using it when I need it, like critically needing it, but not going overboard when I'm dying because I'm not using the heavy. But to the point where, right, let's just save a little bit of heavy, so I've got full ammo here and I've got two or three bricks. I'm good for the next 2 phases of this boss fight because of that. Where rather than, oh, I've got 2 bricks, let's waste all my 16 shots and then I'll go for those bricks. I don't sort of play like that. So that's where your playstyle thing comes in. And that's like safe mode, if you like. When you play GMs, you play safe. And that's my safe mode kicking in. On a speed run, or whatever you might be doing, you don't play like that. It's the opposite mentality. You use everything what you've got. If RNG is not good to you, then you've got to redo your run. Simple as that. Which most people don't like that. They don't want to keep trying at something. They want to know a good strat, learn the strat, and then do the run. That's it. We've got Charge of Light again, so we're going to deal damage to the tank. A good place to deal damage to the tank is on top of this first initial building. The reason for that is because on this particular phase, there is another overload that spawned in via a ship. And there's the barrier that we still haven't dealt with. So the barrier is going to shield the overload, and we can't really push up any further. There's also a third wave of enemies that spawn in, which is distance based, which means that the further you go to the tank, that's when they spawn in. I know the exact distance of that from a location on left side, so we're definitely not spawning any more overloads right now because there's a barrier that needs to be taken out at some point. What you saw there is the skiff ship come over past. They can kill you, so that's why I retreated. Now the fallen ship spawns in when you break a leg on the tank or do about 15% or 10% HP to the tank. Then you get that first ship. Then when you do more damage, you get another ship, and then I believe you get a third ship with no ads on it. But you've still got to know when that ship comes, because the ship can just come over your head and kill you in 2 shots. It can be as quick as that, and it can be, as I said, annoying. So you need to be sort of aware of when the ships are coming, and if you do hear them, just retreat, go inside a building, or at least run around the map. The ship can't hit you if you just keep running around, so you can do it that way either or. We're trying to get some consistent nades on this tank, which I am missing just slightly, a couple of meters here and there, just with me not playing Voidwalker much of late. Which that's what you'll find, whatever class that you start to stop playing, you sort of lose skill on that class, and you've got to sort of play with it a little bit more, and then you get back to where you was. And say that's the same true for like a Hunter Night Stalker, whatever you might think of, a Titan, military hammers, whatever it might be. There's 2 or 3 invisible marauders which are in the middle of the map. Usually they hang around under the bridge, but they're around this area, which I do know that. So you can hear their invis, because they are invisible of course, but they have an audio cue to let you know that they are close. With Chaff on, you don't know exactly where they are, so you've got to keep an eye out for them, because they can kill you really quick as well. We've lost with Charge of Light. That's fine though. We're just doing damage from back here, breaking a leg, which that's pretty easy to do. This is where the run sort of suffers, whether the a linear fusion would have worked better, because it's precision based damage. It's just going to do more damage to a tank than what, you know, Anarchy would do. Anarchy's decent, it's just trying to get up there close to do that. And I'm not sure what my ammo drops are on the floor, so we're happy with just doing our nades and our bow at this minute in time. And again, I don't want to get too close to the tank, because you will spawn in the overload, our captains, all sorts of, you know, vandals and things. That's the worst thing that you can do, because the barrier will shield all those enemies, and it will make it hard work for you, meaning at that point you'll have to tank that damage, and you'll have to play clutch to get the barrier killed until you can proceed with the overload and stuff. So to avoid all that, you don't go past too close to the tank. There's a certain red box on the left hand side, you may see it now. So the red box right here in front of me, if you go any further than that, that's the trigger for the next overload and stuff. Just seeing what other ads are alive. Going a little bit closer, see if we can get a nade on. There is an overload there that you saw, but I'm not going to deal with the overload until the end, because this overload champion will be so easy to take out later on. So it's not worth our time taking it right now. If you do want to nade the tank, you really have to jump up high, because see, with nades in this game, if you didn't know, height elevates your grenades. They go further when you jump up. Now a lot of people like fastball, where your grenades go further. I've never been a lover of fastball. I don't like that perk, but some people do, because your grenade does travel a lot further. But I've never really got used to fastball, and also it's in the gauntlets. I'm not using it. I've got overload bone and anti-barrier auto, so I can't use something like that. But if you do want your need to go a little further, it's a case of jump in the air, aim as high as possible. Not as high as possible, but you know, aim to where the target is, and then you know you're more likely to hit your target. Tank is literally one shot now. That's the walker taken out. Then what will happen then is the barrier's in mill, you can see now. The barrier actually retreats and goes to where the tank was. Which means this overload captain here, for whatever reason, he stays in that middle area. So meaning that he's free for us just to take him out easily. So you can spam your nades. I could have done an anarchy shot, I think I do. Yeah, doing right now. Just do the one. I'm happy enough with one. I generally just use one on overload, but if it's anything else, or if I need to do a lot of damage to the boss, I'll use the 2. Obviously 2 is maximum damage that you can do. After 2 you don't get any benefit. The only benefit to that is that you extend the timer of Anarchy. Right? You would extend for the next chain to be, you know, longer. Not longer, but you're just resetting that timer, if, so to speak. Say if you do 6 shots, which is not the way you use Anarchy, by the way. You do the 2 shots, then you swap to your primary, do additional damage or whatever it might be, and then go on with that. There's another ship spawning in. That ship right there didn't spawn any ads at all. I'm not sure why it even comes in. It's kind of pointless, but it does. After that ship, I believe that's it. There's no more ships. Just taking out any ads in middle, and we're prepping over the far side. So I'm prepping any dregs and vandals and things, because I am going to go over there and I'm going to deal with the barrier. They can sort of, depending on where you're standing, they can get in your way, nade you, and sidetrack you from dealing with the barrier. It's very important that you get the barrier down before you spawn in that next phase. I'm actually going to go a step further and take this overload from here. The only reason why I'm doing that right now is because I've charged with light. Notice the barrier is hitting me, so that's his range. He does hit you from here, but that's probably his max. If I was standing any further back, he wouldn't. The only reason why I'm standing a little bit far forward is because Arsenic Bite is like it's not a long range bow. It doesn't have the accuracy. It has the fast draw time because that's its frame, but it doesn't have the accuracy of what Wolftone Draw would have, or Biting Winds. They're a much higher accuracy bow. Now, the higher your bow for accuracy, the basically more range it has, the more likely you are to hit crits. So accuracy is a very important stat if you're fighting really high ranges. If it's all within, you know, standard ranges, then a bow like this is much better. But if you're at far distance the whole time, right, then a high accuracy bow is more important than a draw time bow. So now we're baiting this champion. I'm going to come left hand side. I'm not going before that box. I'm checking to see what the champion's doing, because these fallen can be annoying when they teleport, especially if they teleport behind a pillar. I'll use a super, because I've got nothing else to use a super on, so that's fine. We've done 2 Anarchy, but the boss is teleported, which is unfortunate. So we've lost that. He is still Anarchied, which is kind of beneficial, but we've lost damage there. But there's nothing much we can do. If we push that champ, I would have spawned in the overload, so I would have been having to commit to that champ kill, and if he'd teleport again, I would have then been screwed. So I took the fall for it and just waited for him to go again for damage. And the main thing, at least, I got the barrier down, and then I can spawn in the next set of ads. We'll get our elemental well for charge of light. We've got some Anarchy ammo, and then we can do with this next phase. We're just waiting for the overload captain to get into position, which I usually like him left hand side, but not too close to the pillar, because obviously there's a pillar there. Because if you keep stunning an overload, they slowly can move right or left. Because every time they stun, they take a step. Just take note of it. We've done some Anarchy here. The Anarchy, that's what's happened there. So the Anarchy has stunned the champ. Not overload stunned him, but staggered the champ. And he's went behind the pillar, which was dead unfortunate. If I'd had that with the bow, he wouldn't have done that. So that was unfortunate. But he did come back out just before he regens, so that's good. Now we can deal with the Arch Captain and stuff. This section's dealt with. All the champions are taken. At this point we could just about run past all the ads, but I'm looking on heavy bricks because I've only got 6. I wasn't sure whatever heavy was on the floor, and I definitely want to pick up those bricks before we go to the boss fight. No matter what your loadout is for this, no matter what setup you're using, if you're using sleeper, whatever you're using, you may be using a machine gun, always make sure you double check for heavy or whatever ammo that you're using before you go to the boss fight, because that's when you need a lot of ammo. There's a lot of ads and stuff like that. That's the Arch Captain dealt with. Be careful of these mines when you set them off, because if you set multiple off at a time, they can actually one-shot you. Like if there's 3 or 4 mines right on top of each other, you set them off, they can just instantly wipe. So we're 14 shots on Anarchy, just about maximum, so that's good. And then we've got the 2 overloads and the ads to deal with. So to make this easier, 2 ways of doing with it. You can deal with it at the entrance and strafe at the entrance, or you can fight from the left hand side. So what I do is stun at least the champion that I see in front of me. That gives me some respite to go past the champ and come to this location. If you don't do a stun, that champion's going to do damage to you and maybe kill you. So that's why I done a stun there, just to give me. Sometimes you can do that. Say you want to pick up an elemental well, or you need to pick up some ammo. You can stun the champ, go for your ammo, and then come back to your place of comfort. And that way, you've got what you wanted, and you've stunned the champ safely, and you've got to your destination. Obviously, there's a board that has shoot to loot, wolf tone draw. I've explained about that bow multiple times, so that will be also useful in this. I do have that bow with shoot to loot frenzy, so I could have used that, but this bow is just more consistent on champs and everything like that because it's got explosive payload. It's more likely to. I don't have to hit as many shots with my bow to make sure I'm definitely stunning that champ. Whereas with a bow with no, I mean, frenzy bow is fine, but that explosive payload adds an additional stagger there. So, but wolf tone draw would have worked out just as well. I'm going to do a stun here, so I can get my elemental well, charge of light, because I do want charge of light for when we start the boss fight. It'll just speed it up a little bit for me. Keep strafing him here. These champions, notice, are arc champions as well. So these are kind of more deadly than the solo ones because they've got more range. Their bullets curve around walls. It can be annoying, but you've got to know what champions you're fighting against, because champions coming up, some of them aren't that element. I think the next 2 overloads on the phase 2 are solar, which is actually beneficial. So we're using Overbomb as soon as the DPS starts, and then 2 Anarchy. So just keep an eye on the boss's HP, see the damage you're doing. As I said, this boss is classed as a vehicle, so I think Anarchy's working as it did in the past on this boss, because he is a vehicle. He's not classed as a boss, or so I'm led to believe. The bosses, when immune spawned in the servitors, the first Arch Captain will push you. He does that every time. There's no RNG to it. It just depends on where you last was. But he will push into this room. The second Arch Captain won't. If he sees you and you're close to him, he will. But the first one's more confident and will push in this room. So you've got to be prepared for that. So this is where Osmosis comes in. I've already explained about Osmosis in the previous video about scouts. You want an Osmosis weapon for pretty much any primary type you can think of. So for each season you're covered. I've even got an Osmosis shotgun, Osmosis sniper. Just, it's really handy being able to have 3 different burns on your guns at a point, because it saves on ammo, you see. If I was to have used, if I'd used a different setup and it involved my heavy being a void, that would be fine. I can break that shield, but I'm wasting heavy on a shield that I otherwise could have used on a primary. And that means I've got more heavy for the boss, more heavy for captains pushing, more heavy for critical moments. So that's why Osmosis is so good, because it saves on everything else. And this Scathelocke auto is pretty good as it is anyways. It's a really good auto rifle. The first thing that you want to do when you do come to this phase is focus the servitors. See, they do splash damage, because splash damage is increased. For the most part they can't really hit you, but when you start fighting the ads, they can. So what you want to do is take out 3 of the servitors and leave the far left servitor alive, because you want to take out all ads for each phase. As I said, Devil's Lair has this fame of you can make it as easy as you want or as hard as you want. If you deal with all the ads for each phase, it means there's less ads overall to deal with, because for each phase, because you've reset the room so that it's empty. It also means it gives you a moment to do a lot of damage to the boss as soon as you break the boss's shield. Whereas if there's lots of ads alive and you do break the shield from here, you lose out on DPS, because you can't go out there Nova if there's like 4 or 5 dregs, because they will kill you as you're in your Nova. So it's like prepping the room, if you like. Prep the room, deal with each ad phase as it comes. You'll find it's just way easier. Whereas if you burst down the boss, phase 1 ads are going to be on phase 2, and phase 2 ads are going to be on phase 3. It's going to be hectic. There's going to be ads everywhere, arc tracking shots everywhere. You are more likely to die when that happens. So do yourself a favour, if you're doing a solo GM on this, just take the ads as they come. The shanks are on an independent phase. They just keep spawning every probably 90 seconds. It's probably every night. I haven't timed it. I'm not gonna. It's pointless timing it. But they are on a timer and they just keep spawning up. It's kind of beneficial to you in a sense, because you can get ammo off those shanks. So if you are low on heavy and you really don't want to start the next cycle, just wait. Leave the servitor up and wait for more shanks until you get the heavy that you want. More than likely you've probably got heavy on the floor somewhere. With the shoot to loot bow will come in handy. You could shoot that, like that brick there. I'm looking at it, I'm thinking about it. Do I want it? Do I not? I end up leaving it, I believe. So we broke the shield. I'm wanting to anarchy this boss as soon as possible. I could have Nova'd as well, but I was sort of out of position with the servitor. But I did get at least my 2 anarchy shots on, and I'm charged with light, because we broke the servitor's shield with shield break. So that's beneficial there. This boss on phase 2 will cycle the room. He will only cycle the room after so long. He'll be in the air for a little bit, and then he will, as I say, cycle around the room. But it's kind of good if you're doing it slower and you are sitting in here, because you'll have moments of opportunity to do damage to the boss without having to go out there. But right now what my concern is getting a lot of the ads down. I can go down below and do damage, and you see me do that. I'm not saying that you can't, but when you do go downstairs and there's a fresh wave of ads upstairs, they can hit you, and you're increasing the chances of dying. So if you're gonna do it where you go downstairs and do damage to the boss, do 1 or 2 shots with whatever power weapon you use and then retreat, because those arc tracking shots can come down and actually kill you when you're down below. So you see the boss is cycled, he's rotated. We'll do an anarchy shot. Do another anarchy shot, and that's some free damage for us while we deal with the rest of the ads. Eventually he'll come here. I used a Nova on these ads. I could have used it on the boss, but I was sort of sick of waiting for the boss cycling over here, so I wanted to just use it and wait for my next cooldown. because the boss is eventually going to come here. I'm charged with light as well, so Anarchy can do some work for us. Boss is half HP. He's close to being immune again for the next wave of servitors. With this hallway to your left, anytime you know that there's adds there, just use your nade. We Contraverse hold with the Vortex. You can use Axion bolts. I've used Axion bolts. I've demonstrated how that is in GMs, which they are really good, and they do track adds, right? They have been buffed, but is it better than the Contraverse hold? Better than Vortex Grenades? Well, it just depends on what you're doing. Like for this particular GM, the Vortex Grenade is better than the Axion bolt, because Axion bolts don't do good single target damage, like to GM adds to a GM vehicle or whatever, but they do really great ad clear. But the Vortex Grenade kind of does both. A well placed Vortex Grenade will just do just as well as an Axion bolt, maybe not, if better. It just depends. It depends on if you can't see those ads. If you can't see the ads and the Axion bolt, you need the Axion bolt to track them, like in GM, like in Exodus Crash on the GM, where you're up high, then that's beneficial to you. But for the most part, you're not doing something like that. So a well-placed Vortex is just probably going to be still better than Axions. But Axions are still usable, and don't be sort of thinking that you can't use them or something, because they are definitely really good. We have the two Arch Captains, which it's important that you take out these Arch Captains before you go any further for damage on the boss, because these Arch Captains will continue to spam you with shots constantly on top of everything else. It's something that you don't need. So make sure you take out the Resilient Captains. I'm just taking out the remainder adds. It appears that everything's taken out, but I'm just double checking. Now we're just getting some heavy. We can use a Nova here as well, just to finish off this phase. Pretty safe to do that from here. Then we can start the next phase. I'll charge a grenade straight away while having my auto rifle equipped, so we can do some damage to the servitors and get Osmosis going, so we can start working on the servitors as soon as possible, because that's the first thing you really want to do. On this phase you're going to get two Overload Captains, of course. Here's the thing with the two Overload Captains. The AI changes of the last Captain that you take. Once the first Overload is taken out, the second Captain will generally not teleport near you too much. He will sort of want to teleport upstairs outside, and it's consistent. He's been like that for ages, this Overload. But it's the same for Overloads. When they're more confident, when there's more of them alive, when there's only one left, they'll teleport out of your way. They won't push you as much. The first Overload's really easy to take. As soon as you see him, just take him. Which I got an angle on him through the window, so that's good. We'll do a grenade to our left, because I know there's a lot of adds in there. Work on the next servitors, the same deal. What I could do here as well is switch to the bow and just take out the servitors a little quicker. Which I'm fine to do that, because I've got another grenade to go for Osmosis again. It didn't really matter in the end, but that's something I can do. Do another grenade to my left, because the adds will group up, you see. They don't know what to do. So a lot of those adds to the left will just stand there. So just firing a nade in like that, without them seeing you, it just takes them all out. Again, we're going to leave one servitor alive. That's always the thing. Don't start the next phase until we're sort of ready. Our heavy's low. It's too low for the last phase. We need more heavy than that. There'll be some adds downstairs if you haven't dealt with them from phase 2. So just charge a nade to take them all out. There's some shanks from the previous phase. And now we have to deal with the overload. There's some solar dregs. Now the solar dregs are very dangerous and they can push into this room. If you hang around for long enough downstairs, they will eventually push you and they could surprise you and kill you. I have seen that happen to people. It's happened to me in the past. So with these solar dregs, the ones with a lot of wolves, you need to take them out. You need to prioritize them. This overload captain is going to play games with you, as I said, he can. Sometimes he can teleport right exactly where you want him to. If he teleports in the corridor to your left, you can sort of deal with him there. Just be mindful that the shanks may spawn on top of you while you're dealing with the overload. So just be mindful of that, and take note of when you got your last shank phase. But he spawned where I wanted him to, and the reason why I done that is because I baited him. I aggroed him by jumping up just to say, look, I'm here, and then he teleported where I wanted him to, so worth the treat. We'll do our 2 Anarchy shots because we want to deal with this overload quickly. I don't want to mess about with him. Make sure you do your strafe as well. That sticks the overload. It means he's going to stay there, or more likely to. So we'll charge with light. We're going to see if there's any more adds. There's just a fresh shank phase just started. So before I deal with damage, it's beneficial to me to take out all these shanks so that I can do a Nova Bomb Anarchy combo on the boss as soon as his shield's taken down. That's basically free damage for us, because that'll do damage before all the adds spawn in. Because they take a bit to get here, like maybe 20 seconds. So you've got that opportunity to just do a good amount of damage so that it's over and done with. Because on the final phase, you don't need to take out all the adds, and there is no overloads. It is just adds, so it's a point of you just want to burn the boss down, but not to the point where you're dying and really risking it. Just to the point where, you know, you're not dying. We'll do an overbomb 2 Anarchy shots. That'll do a lot of damage for us. And then we'll re-up an Anarchy downstairs. But I only ever do the 2 shots. Make sure you approach with full HP, because these 2 blasts will probably hit you, or at least 1, and it'll get you weak, but then you can retreat. What you can do as well, if you want to do this, is switch between top and bottom. Now the adds are going to be aggroed on your last position, so if the last time they saw you was downstairs, they're going to be fixated on you being downstairs. But what you can do is switch their attention to upstairs, so you can like do a nade upstairs, have them see you, then come downstairs, they're fixated upstairs, and you can do that momentary burst of damage, your 2 Anarchy shots or whatever, like safely, and then you're getting all your Anarchy damage in. The boss is literally one shot at this point. So we're just going to go down and finish the boss off. But that was the double primary Anarchy loadout for the Solo GM. I hope you enjoy. Thank you.